Keeping koi can be easy and fun, as long as you have enough knowledge about the koi and the pond. Gaining knowledge about the koi and the pond can be done here in the School of Koi. This video I will help you think about how to plan a koi pond. Plan ahead. What are things to consider, like a budget, the space and filter size? Welcome to the School of Koi. Planning a koi pond. Planning part 1. This indicates there will be more parts. Indeed, this is a first introduction into how to plan a koi pond. There's lots of things to consider, but these are the basics that you should minimally think about. Let's start at the beginning. Why do you want to build a koi pond? Do you want to start keeping koi? Or do you want better koi? Or larger koi? Did you see a beautiful koi pond? Do you have a particular size or shape in your head already that you've seen that you want to build? These are examples of koi ponds that already have been made. And the variation is almost limitless. In this video I will be talking about 4 different aspects. What are your goals in the koi hobby? What do you want out of the koi hobby? What is a budget? What is the space you have available for your koi pond? And what are basic choices that you need to make upfront before you start doing anything practical? The first thing you need to consider is the purpose of your koi pond. You need to know yourself. Where are you in the koi pyramid? I see the koi hobby as a pyramid. At the very top, there's a small band of koi professionals. These are the koi dealers and very experienced koi hobbyists. They have the biggest and the best koi and have all the knowledge about the koi and how to grow them into grand champions. Below that, there's a very large band of experienced hobbyists. They know how to keep their koi healthy, and they might even know how to improve their koi for koi shows. These are the people that help other hobbyists. Usually the volunteers in koi shows and in koi societies also come from this group of very experienced hobbyists. They have a lot of knowledge. They have done things wrong in the past, as have I, but they can also explain you what they've done in the past, which might have been wrong, so you can prevent these mistakes in the future. And there's a very large band of starting hobbyists who just want to keep koi happy. They might be in the hobby for a longer time, but they don't want to show their koi necessarily. They just want to keep their koi healthy and vital and enjoy the pretty colors. And there's a small band in the bottom of people who know everything already. They don't want to hear our tips and tricks. They know exactly what they have to do, so they buy new koi every few years because they die. You're not in that band because you're watching this video. So in general, where are you in this pyramid? Do you find it very important to have a beautiful garden, a beautiful pond with nicely colored fish in it? Maybe one of every variety that you can think of. Or do you think it's more important that in the future you want to improve the shiroji and the beni of your future grand champion? There's nothing wrong with where you are in the koi hobby. It's more that you need to know where you are at this moment and where you want to go to. Because this influences the type of pond that you want to build. I'll explain this in a little bit more detail. The top of the hobby can create grand champion koi, the best of the best. These are the koi that we see in the pretty pictures, and yes, they cost also a lot of money. The pond type that goes with that is also the best of the best. You need to have really good materials, a lot of aeration, a lot of filtration to make sure these koi stay that good. These koi cost a lot of money, so you want to take care of these as well. The middle band, they want to have their koi grown and develop. They want to get their koi ponds done correct the first time. They want to keep koi for a long time, so they want to make sure that everything is in place to keep their koi healthy for a long time and have them develop. The blue band want to keep their koi alive maybe develop them a little bit, but they just want to see the pretty colors in the pond eat. That man needs to have a koi pond which meets the minimal requirements to keep enjoying the hobby. It's not even keeping the koi happy or have them thrive. No, it's to keep enjoying the hobby. If you don't enjoy the hobby, you will stop having the hobby. And that is something that we want to prevent at all costs. If you still don't know exactly where you are in this pyramid, I'll give you a description. Are you category A? I enjoy the pretty colors of the car, but the whole pond experience is most important. Or do you want to evolve into category B hobbyist? You want to have larger, better or more expensive koi. You want to watch them develop and grow. The koi themselves are the most rewarding part of the hobby, besides having a beautiful pond. Or do you think you want to go to category C? You want to have the best of the best in both koi and equipment. You want to win a koi show maybe. Or just enjoy the highest possible top quality koi. There's a different budget and a different pond type that goes with it. Just think about it. Where are you in the hobby at this moment? And where do you want to go to? This is important because your budget is important. Not everyone has the same budget, and there's nothing wrong with that as well. Koi keeping does not have to be an expensive hobby. Just realize that if you want to have Grand Champion koi, category C, then it will be an expensive hobby. Again, that is not wrong. As long as you have the budget, you can go that way. Category A does not have to require a high budget at the start or every year. Keeping koi and building a koi pond also requires a certain budget. Both initial purchase and yearly cost will go up or down depending on which category pond you wish to build. Initial purchase means that you have to buy the materials to build the pond, of course. Sometimes there's workers' fees involved. If you don't build the pond completely yourself, then you have to pay workers who do the work for you. You have to realize that up front. What can you do yourself? What do you have to ask others to do for you? There's a certain budget involved in that. But also yearly. The food, the water, electricity, the koi that you buy, the test kits cost money. And these costs come back year over year, every year. They never go down, to be honest. At best they're constant. While constant in summer, it costs less in winter, but more in the summer. And what you have to realize is that these costs are different. If you build a 10 cubic meter or 10 ton koi pond, these costs are a lot lower than if you build a 50 cubic meter koi pond or 13,000 gallons. Not only the initial cost will be higher, but the yearly cost of food and water and electricity to run this pond will be a lot higher. As long as you realize it and do the calculations, then you know if you can afford this, yes or no. So don't look at other people too much. You know, some people have all the money in the world and they can build whatever they want. It is about your budget. It's about your appreciation for the koi hobby, about your enjoyment at home for the koi hobby. So think about your own budget. What do you have and what would you like? Because you can build maybe you have the budget to build a 20 cubic meter near perfect koi pond for category B koi. So you can have and enjoy koi for a longer time. It's a very sturdy pond and you have enough electricity running and water changing so you can really improve the koi. But for the same amount of money you can have a category A pond which will keep the koi happy for a long time. They will stay healthy for a long time and it will be a lot bigger. It doesn't work both ways. You can either spend your money in a 50 cubic meter koi pond or a 20 cubic meter koi pond. If you spend the money that you want to put in a large koi pond, in a smaller koi pond, you might be able to purchase better or also more expensive equipment. Adding a drum filter to your filtration is an example of this. The initial cost of a drum filter is a lot higher, but it makes your life more easy. It can also cause you to change more water if you use a drum filter, so it gets more expensive. So there are pros and cons to this. As long as you realize this, you'll be fine. So use these insights and write them down. Where are you at this moment in both knowledge and experience in the koi hobby? And what do you want in the koi hobby? Do you want to improve, make the next step, or just make a good koi pond with the best tips and tricks that you can build to enjoy your koi for a long time? So what is your own budget? Write these answers down and start planning from there. Only when you finish this, you can go up to the next phase, which is the actual planning of the koi pond. The next phase in building a koi pond is thinking about the space. What is the total space that you have for your koi pond and filtration? A lot of people start thinking about a koi pond, write it down, make the layout, start building the pond, and then later realize that they need to add a filter. That is too late. Think about your filter up front. Maybe the first thing you need to consider is how big your filter should be. Let's get to that a little bit later. Your filter consists of a pre-filter, a biological filter, the pump, and a UV lamp before the water returns to your pond. That requires a certain volume of space around or at the back of your koi pond. For instance, if you make a 2 by 3 meter koi pond, which is 1.5 meter deep, then you will have a volume of 9 cubic meters, more or less. In that pond, I envision 10 koi up to 50 centimeters to be healthy and thrive. Or maybe 5 koi of 70 centimeters. That will be a healthy, normal consideration for the number of koi and the length of koi that you can put in such a pond. This pond and this number of koi already needs a filter setup which is easily 2 meters in length and 80 centimeters in width, if you include everything. If you want to include an extra drum filter, this will take up more space. Maybe you don't have the budget at this moment to add this drum filter right now, but maybe you want to do that later on. Well, then plan plenty of space for filter components that you want to add later on. A drum filter is easy 1 by 1 meter if you want to include it and be able to access the filter daily or weekly basis. So you need to plan ahead for a lot of extra space for your filter. If the access to your filter is difficult, you'll be tempted to clean it less often. And this will have an effect on your koi, and that will have an effect of your appreciation of the koi. If the quality of the pond water goes down because your filter is not clean enough, then your koi will do less well. And you want to enjoy healthy koi, so make sure that you can access your filter. And not only the filter, you also want to access the sides of the pond. When you keep koi, you need to put them in a net or a bowl and inspect them more closely. If you then can't access the koi pond from multiple sides, then this gets more and more difficult. So plan extra space so you can walk around the pond as well. Planning a koi pond is actually looking ahead, 5-6 years from now. This is maybe the most important remark that I can make about building a koi pond. If you start thinking about a new koi pond, think ahead. How many koi do you want in the future? How many koi will you have 5-6 years from now? And how long will they be? How large will these koi be at maximum? How much food do these maximum require then in summer? Because the amount of food influences how big your filter should be that you need to plan at this moment. How large should your filter be then 5 years from now? If you make a filter for the koi that you put in your pond next year or 2 years from now, 5 years from now that might be too small. The koi that you put in now will easily grow to 50, 70 cm. Not many people put in koi 50 cm in length. But you have to realize that koi grow really fast, especially in a well-maintained koi pond. To help you do these calculations up front, before you start building a koi pond, you can use the NVN Koi app. It is built by the Dutch Koi Association, so there's a lot of knowledge that has gone in there. What you need to realize is that the filter size is completely dependent on the amount of food that you give your koi. If you want to understand how that works, go to my first video about the nitrogen cycle in the pond. Well, it's actually a nitrogen flow because there is no nitrogen cycle in the pond, which I will explain there. If you download the Koi app, the first thing you need to do is enter the amount of koi that you want to keep in the future. Let's look at this example where you want to keep 10 koi of 50 centimeters in the future. If you then go to the next tab, which is called food per day, and you enter the water temperature of 24 degrees Celsius, which is the highest temperature in summer that your koi probably have. Then the koi require the most food. At 24 degrees, 10 koi of 50 centimeters will require about 280 grams of food per day. And you can divide that over up to 6 feedings per day. Divide it over multiple feedings. 6 feedings is advised to be best. But that's not really relevant at this moment. More relevant is that you need about 280 grams per day that you need to give your koi in the summer. If you then go to the next tab, filter capacity, you can add, for instance, the filter material called blue Japanese matting. Because it's not about the size of your filter, it's about the amount of filter material that's actually in your filter that does a trick. There's bacteria that attach to this filter material. Those bacteria are responsible for breaking down the ammonia. And they need a certain amount of space to have enough bacteria present in your filter to break down all the ammonia that is built up from this 280 grams that you give to your koi daily. So 10 square meters of blue Japanese matting can house enough bacteria to break down approximately 220 grams of food. If you add a moving bed filter with, for instance, coldness as material in it, you can add another 100 grams of food per day. So in total, if you would have filter compartments with these two filter materials in it, then you will have enough filtration to, in the future, have your filter cope with about 300 grams of food per day for 10 koi 50 centimeters in length. So what happens if you want to keep larger koi, like 68 centimeters? Think about the amount of food that you give them in summer. You also need a lot more filter material. As long as you realize that up front, you can plan ahead and think about how big you want your filter to be, or how big you need your filter to be to cope in the future with the amount of food. It's a waste of money to purchase a small filter now and then replace it by a larger filter 4 or 5 years from now. It is okay if your filter is too big the first 3, 4, 5 years when you keep koi. It is not okay the first year your filter is too small. Then you will run into problems with your koi, up to dying koi, which is what you want to prevent. The next part is about making choices. You can either make a pond pump fed or gravity or pump pooled. Pump fed means your pump is in the pond and that will feed the water up to a filter. The filter will clean the water and then after the filter it will fall back into the pond. Gravity or pump pooled means that there's a hole in the bottom of your pond and the water is actually pulled to the first stage of your filter. And the water will be pumped back behind your filter and pushed back into the koi pond. Let's first consider a pump fed system, which is usually for hobbyists in category A, people who start in the hobby. It is fit for a pond with a few koi or small koi. Best fit. Of course, everything can be done and it all requires maintenance. Because the pros of a pump fed system is that it's really fast to build, it's cheap to purchase, it's quickly adjustable because you can put in extra pumps or remove a pump or make sure that the pump on your filter are on the other side of the pond. And it's easy. It's a low threshold to start for starters in the hobby. From here on, you can learn how to take care of your koi and how to keep koi and improve them for the future. It's very good to start the hobby. Just make sure that you maintain the koi and the pond and your filter really well to have success for the future. The maintenance is critical because especially larger debris like leaves are not sucked in through the pump to your filter, so they're not removed by your filter system. You have to remove them by hand. Nothing wrong with that. As long as you are willing to put in the effort, then you can keep koi for a long time healthy with a pump fed system. Gravity or pump pooled is usually for people who are in the hobby a little bit longer and really want to have better koi or more koi per cubic meter. Why is that? Because as the water is sucked into the first part of your filter, without a pump being in between it, also large debris will be fed into your pre-filter. If you have an efficient pre-filter, then all this large debris can be removed from the system before it has to be broken down by the rest of your filter. And if you have a drum filter, this can even be done automatically. Or with a sieve filter, you can do that by hand every day, but very easily, without having to go through the whole pond with a small net. Usually it has lower energy cost, because the water does not have to go up really high. The water can be pumped back into the pond below the water surface, or just above the water surface is actually better. But you don't have to make it really high if you want to. So it costs less energy to run. As I said, the coarse filtration is really effective, and the filter can be moved out of sight more easy. A gravity system is usually easier, and it requires less maintenance, and because you use sturdy materials like concrete, it has a longer lifespan. It is the best option for larger, more expensive koi. The downside is the initial cost, and it's less adjustable, so you really need to consider, before you start building, where to put your returns, for instance. On what depth, what angle. How do you make your koi pond? Because once you build it in concrete, it's usually set there for years. The next part of making choices is, what is the setup of your filter? What is the setup of your pond? Will you go for rubber lining or fiberglass or concrete? What pump can you consider? Because there's a lot of different pumps out there. There's something to be said about a hole in the ground. You need an EV lamp and you need a filter, and there's heaps of different filters out there. And also the plastics can contain a lot of choices. Let's start with the shape of the koi pond. If you look at the shape of your pond, larger is usually better. If you have more surface area, then the water can exchange oxygen with the air. If you have round shapes, this is usually better, because you actually want kind of a toilet effect. You want all the debris that falls into the water, you want all the debris to go to your filter system as fast as possible. So if you have a little bit of swirling effect towards your bottom drain or towards your pump, please avoid too many corners, because if the water is not exchanged there fast enough, then dirt will accumulate in those corners and start to rot. And this will cause bacteria to build up and cause problems for your koi. Even if you have a rectangular pond, try to round off the corners. And if you then also place the return of the water in a smart way, you get this vortex effect. There's also something to be said about the side view. You want a koi pond to be a minimal of 4 feet deep. 1.25 meters at a very minimum. 1.8 meters actually the optimum for koi, especially for larger koi. If they can go up and down in the water column, that is better for the swim bladder, for instance. One of the advantages of having a steep side, especially the first 60 centimeters or 2 feet, is that a heron cannot stand into the water. So all things considered, there are so many different successful koi ponds that you can build. Large ponds, small ponds, rectangular, round ponds. What you can think of can usually be made into a koi pond. Rounded shapes usually tend to do better. A rectangular shape can also be done, but then make sure that your filtration system and your returns are really well designed. The actual placing of your koi pond is very important. Make sure you have sight lines from your house. If you don't see your koi pond, you won't enjoy it, and you will tend to forget it over time. Tap water needs to be there. You need to have wastewater or electricity, preferably 2 different groups of electricity going towards your pond or close to where your filter system is. I prefer to use 2 electricity groups with at least 1 aerator per group. So if one of them stops running, the other will at least give them fresh oxygen. If you provide shade to your koi, then algae will have a tendency to grow slower, because these like the sun. But also, if the water is really crystal clear, your koi in summer can actually burn. They can get sunburn. So protect them with shade. If you put it close to trees and falling leaves, it has the advantage of shade probably, but then you need to remove these falling leaves and make sure that you have your skimmers and returns placed in a smart way so you can direct falling leaves towards your skimmer as fast as you can. The wind direction can be an issue, especially in the winter time. See if you can somehow prevent the cold winter chill to go directly over your koi pond, because that will cool down your pond really fast in winter. If you can prevent that, then koi will have a higher temperature in the pond water for a longer time, which will help them through winter. And do you want to have your filter out of sight? Well, most people, yes. I'm not building a koi pond to look at a koi filter for the whole year. So think about your line of sight from the house and think about your filter setup up front. The most important aspects of these are really line of sight from the house. The more you look at your koi, the more often you enjoy your koi, the more often you will be triggered to actually maintain your pond and the filter system. And of course you need to have your water, your waste and your electricity to be set up around the place where you want to build your koi pond. So before construction starts, make sure you download the free Koi app. Have a play around with it. Read the free articles that are available in there, because I haven't made videos about all subjects yet, but there's a lot of knowledge, free knowledge to look at in this Koi app. Determine your budget and wish list. Write down the answers and learn a little bit more about Koi. Then make a first sketch of your plan and desires. After you've built your plan, after you wrote down your plan, convey with experienced Koi dealers and Koi pond builders. There's a huge difference between builders of ponds and koi pond builders. Don't make the mistake that you build an awesome pond and within 2 years you need to build a new koi pond. So planning a koi pond is determining what your current knowledge level is. Determine your goals, determine how many koi and what water volume that you want, and build what you like. A good preparation is the key to problem-free koi keeping. And that is what my videos are about in the School of Koi. Problem-free koi keeping. I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope that you will keep koi problem-free. Make sure to check out other videos. There's a lot of knowledge still out there and there will be a lot more knowledge coming to you. Free of charge.